Reflecting fondly on her junior colleague, Iris recalls that Lars handles every task flawlessly while remaining attentive, serious, and thoughtful enough to brew her tea unprompted. Summing him up with easy affection, she settles on describing Lars as a friendly and altogether perfect handsome young man. Believing him a sincere youth without a single visible flaw, she trails off ominously as the memory begins to curdle. Frozen inside a lavishly furnished bedroom, Iris stares at the framed portraits crowding the walls and breathlessly wonders why they are there at all. Counting the gilded frames one by one, she realizes with dawning horror that Lars has papered his private room entirely with photographs of her. Cutting calmly through the suffocating darkness, Lars observes that she has finally seen them. Smiling with disheveled composure, he confesses he simply cannot help himself because she has become unbearably dear to him. Framed against the towering bookshelves, a wide-eyed Iris hears him name her outright as the object of that devotion. Leaning forward with unsettling gentleness, Lars calls her his cute angel and politely requests permission to offer her a kiss. Recoiling with a strangled gasp, she can only watch as the young man drops to one knee and claims her hand. Pressing his lips reverently against her fingers, Lars closes his eyes in quiet and utterly devastating satisfaction. The scene shifts to a glittering palace corridor, where a sharp-tongued noblewoman coldly demands how long Iris intends to remain Prince Christopher's fiancée. Circling her with practiced contempt, the assembled ladies brand her barbaric, condemn her monster research, and resent her pointed refusal of their tea party invitation. Meeting the tired chorus with flat detachment, Iris dryly notes that a world overrun by monsters would have perished long ago if queens only poured tea. Having known the truth of this world since birth, she recognizes it as the Maiden of Lyridia, an otome game she once played in a previous life. Recalling the plot precisely, she recounts how a prophesied maiden purifies the miasma strangling the kingdom of Orion, her power swelling as her romances deepen. Reincarnated as Iris and saddled with the dark attribute, she skips every tea party to study monsters, earning the villainess label many times over. Glancing back at the desk where her old life quietly ended, she admits that dying was sad, though she cannot summon much drama about it. Cradling the phone from her past life, Iris counts herself genuinely happy to have been reborn into a world she once loved. Framed by drifting roses, she names the reason above all others: she was born into the role of the villainess. Recounting the scenario ahead, she explains her fiancé will sever their engagement and exile her, a punishment she vastly prefers to a loveless political marriage. Erupting into a flushed, wide-eyed declaration, Iris insists she does not merely accept that exile but absolutely wants it. Recalling her formidable solo-living skills and diligent work ethic from before, she concludes that losing her noble status poses no problem whatsoever. Cutting straight through someone's startled shout, she cheerfully admits she is actively looking forward to being banished from the country. Halting her escape entirely, a golden-haired prince remarks on finding Iris here and wishes aloud that she would finally quit the Magical Beast Research Institute. Greeting him with a bright and perfectly practiced smile, she inwardly despairs at her rotten luck in running into him of all people. Identifying the man properly, she names Christopher Orion the game's main capture target and the villainess's fiancé, the one person she least wants to meet. Admitting the irony with a small guilty smile, she confesses her past self numbered among the noble ladies his refined looks once captivated. Letting that memory die instantly, Iris fixes the prince with an utterly flat stare and sighs. Pressing the point with idle cruelty, Christopher asks whether she knows the other ladies now call her a woman who prefers monsters to human men. Rescuing her mid-humiliation, an unexpected voice calls her name and remarks that this is where she has been hiding all along. Striding in with easy confidence, Lars reminds Iris that the magical beast stables fall to them today, leaving the prince's entourage visibly bewildered. Introducing her coworker, she notes that Lars never appeared anywhere in the game and privately finds him handsome beneath the concealing bangs and glasses. Playing along instantly, Iris agrees her absence would certainly have been a problem and thanks Lars warmly for coming to find her. Excusing herself with flawless composure, she cites the work waiting for her and departs at his side without a single backward glance. Falling into step down the corridor, Lars casually asks whether she happened not to recognize the man they just left behind. Answering with a serene smile, he confirms he knows the first prince's face perfectly well, prompting Iris to marvel privately at his sheer fearlessness. Thanking him for stepping in while Chris was bothering her, she listens as Lars modestly insists it was nothing and that he is glad to be of use, an answer far more devoted than she yet realizes. Warning her gently not to push herself too hard, Lars receives a brisk and entirely unconvincing agreement in return. Handing over the cleaning supplies outside the stables, he offers the tools and Iris thanks him with easy familiarity. Inspecting the equipment first, she frowns at a brush still clogged with hair that nobody bothered to clear away properly. Making a mental note with clinical efficiency, she resolves to take the matter up with Ricky, the junior responsible for the lapse. Catching him staring, Iris pauses mid-inspection and lightly asks Lars what exactly is wrong. Deflecting smoothly, he claims he was merely admiring how dedicated she is to her work. Beaming without a shred of modesty, she declares such dedication only natural, which he finds amazing precisely because she says it so effortlessly. Turning his gaze away, Lars quietly admits he knows nobody who approaches the work as seriously as she does. Leaning in conspiratorially, he confides that a great many people privately admire her, a claim she rejects outright in flustered disbelief. Recalling her Japanese life with a wince, she remembers coworkers accusing her of acting superior simply because she was competent. Puffing up at the notion of setting an example for her juniors, Iris listens as Lars pointedly names himself among her admirers and calls her senpai. Explaining her vocation, she describes magical beasts as animal-type monsters whose ecology, weaknesses, and potential for coexistence with humans the Institute studies in kept stables. Throwing open the stable doors the next morning, Iris cheerfully greets the residents and announces a thorough cleaning ahead. Introducing the occupants one by one, the camera passes over Arthur the unicorn, the wide-eyed Nene, and the imposing wolf Louis. Approaching the largest of them, she asks Louis warmly how he is feeling today. Booming back in delight, the enormous wolf declares himself in great shape, a boss of the stables whose arrogance conceals genuine affection. Souring instantly at the sight of her companion, Louis grumbles about the guy standing beside her, speaking human language only when Lars or Iris is present. Observing the exchange with a knowing smile, Lars notes that Louis truly likes her, which she finds flattering and faintly strange. Answering the unasked question plainly, the wolf explains that being near her is simply calming, which settles the matter entirely. Rolling up her sleeves with a flat, unreadable expression, Iris asks whether they shall finally begin the cleaning. Volunteering for the errand, Lars announces he will fetch fresh straw while Iris cheerfully sends him on his way. Rallying the entire stable behind her, Louis offers his help and gruffly conscripts the others as the unicorn snorts and the smaller beast meows agreement. Explaining the arrangement, she notes that the mute creatures clearly understand speech and route every conversation through Louis as their interpreter. Returning with an ornately scrolled contraption, Lars apologizes for the wait and reveals a magical tool he developed specifically for hauling straw. Recoiling in disbelief that he has built yet another device, Iris protests weakly while he explains he grew tired of watching her make endless handcart trips. Detailing the craft behind it, he notes that magical tools demand knowledge, materials, and raw power, which places them well beyond ordinary hands. Admitting her own limits with an easy smile, she confesses she could never build such a thing and admires him for it, drawing a delighted thanks. Sweeping the last of the floor clean, she surveys the finished stable and declares the job satisfactorily done. Trading exhausted courtesies at the door, Lars praises her good work and Iris returns the compliment in kind. Thanking her warmly for the cleaning, Louis accepts her fond reply as she leans into his enormous side. Burying her face in the wolf's coat, Iris blissfully declares that fluffy fur after a long shift is the finest healing known to anyone. Watching the embrace with a distinctly flat expression, Lars remarks that it seems unfair for Louis alone to receive such treatment. Misreading him completely, she blinks and wonders whether her coworker simply wants a turn enjoying the wolf's magnificent fluff. Stepping graciously aside, Iris invites him to go ahead, prompting an immediate and slightly strained correction that this is not what he meant. Leaning in close among the drifting roses, Lars quietly clarifies that the one he envies is Louis, leaving her name for him caught in her throat. Asking with unsettling calm whether such a thing is simply not allowed, he ignores her flustered demand to know what he thinks he is doing. Shoving him off with her eyes squeezed shut, she informs him that a cute face changes nothing and no means no. Accepting the refusal with a soft note of regret, he watches her retreat inwardly behind the reminder that she remains Christopher's fiancée and must live quietly until her scripted exile arrives. Brushing the whole strange moment aside, Iris announces the stables are finished and calls him to lunch while privately wondering what has gotten into Lars lately. Elsewhere among the palace roses, the first prince stands alone and mutters darkly about the truly depressing mood that has settled over him. Bounding into the garden with luminous cheer, A girl named Suzette calls out to the brooding prince by name. Settling beside him among the flowers, she asks with practiced sweetness why he looks so troubled today. Melting instantly under her attention, Christopher agrees that irritation suits no one as Suzette insists his smile suits him best. Sighing with pointed weariness, the prince declares Suzette reliable in a way his own fiancée conspicuously is not. Feigning delicate hesitation, she asks whether he means Iris, and he explains that a queen requires someone intelligent like Suzette instead. Assuring her there is nothing whatsoever to worry about, Christopher leans close while the girl murmurs how happy that makes her. Turning slightly away from him, Suzette lets a single word hang in the air as her expression begins to change. Smiling with cold, luminous calculation, she privately resolves to eliminate every seed of anxiety standing between her and this game's happy ending. Morning arrives and a bleary Iris drags herself upright, groaning about sleepiness and the meeting waiting for her. Swinging her feet toward her slippers, she reminds herself grimly that she has to get up soon. Confronting the mirror without mercy, she notes that relentless work has deepened the dark circles beneath her eyes. Massaging her temple with rueful recognition, Iris recalls suffering the exact same eye strain throughout her previous life. Stepping out the door with fresh resolve, she determines to finish work early for once today. Arriving at the institute beneath a bright sky, she greets the day with a composed and radiant smile. Ambushed at once by an ecstatic colleague, Iris hears that Professor Rubin's new release was successfully claimed as the bookstore's final copy. Confirming her own purchase with a small smug flourish, she agrees to a proper discussion once they have both finished reading. Wilting nearby, the mustached director laments that he never managed to buy a copy at all, prompting Iris to offer hers first. Seizing the book with unashamed delight, he promises to read it carefully at once while she marvels at his sheer faithfulness to his desires. Clapping the room to order, Iris announces it is time to work as her colleague vows to give her all for the new release. Greeting her senior brightly, the junior thanks Iris for yesterday's lesson and promises to maintain every tool properly this time. Beaming at the flustered junior, Iris declares his work absolutely flawless and confesses, without a trace of irony, that she admires him. Grinning under the praise, the junior drawls his agreement while a colleague retorts pointedly that flattery earns nothing and work still awaits. Squinting at the page as the clock crawls toward midnight, Iris mutters wearily that her eyes feel utterly strained. Sliding a steaming mug onto the desk beside her elbow, someone interrupts the vigil without a single word of announcement. Iris turns and thanks Lars brightly for making the coffee, and he answers simply that she is very welcome. Studying her over his glasses, Lars observes evenly that she seems quite tired, his tone carrying far more concern than curiosity. Turning cheerfully among her scattered papers, Iris admits she stayed up late organizing documents, as though that explained absolutely everything. Reaching into his coat with sudden purpose, Lars announces there is something he wants her to use, and says her name. Presented with a flower-crowned box, Iris asks uncertainly whether she may open it, and Lars answers of course, thoroughly delighted. Lifting the lid with careful fingers, Iris blinks down at the contents as her composure falters into plain bewilderment. Lars explains that it is a magical tool of his own making, warmed instantly by a button on the back. Erupting into recognition, Iris exclaims that this is unmistakably a hot eye mask, leaving Lars to repeat the foreign words blankly. Turning the frilled thing over in her hands, Iris notes privately that the design is extraordinarily girly, and then hesitates. Catching her hesitation, Lars asks what troubles her, prompting Iris to admit she fears the frills are far too cute for her. Smiling with devastating ease, Lars insists it is nothing of the sort and tells her it suits her very well. Flushing violently under that praise, Iris stammers her thanks and looks anywhere but at the junior who engineered this. Lars proposes lightly that they seize the chance for a break, and suggests she try the mask on at once. Seizing her hand before she can protest, Lars steers her toward the break room, warning that exhaustion will wreck her efficiency. Ushering her inside, Lars instructs her to sit while Iris wonders anxiously whether wearing an eye mask at work is remotely permitted. Dropping onto the couch as his hands settle on her shoulders, Iris reflects that Lars can be remarkably forceful sometimes. Meeting her eyes without hesitation, Lars tells her plainly that he fusses over her because she is genuinely important to him. Iris accepts the declaration with a serene smile and thanks him for it, hearing absolutely nothing of what he actually means. Leaning toward her with the frilled mask already in hand, Lars murmurs that in that case they should begin. Settling the warm mask over her eyes with startling gentleness, Lars announces softly that there she goes. Sighing that it feels wonderful, Iris says she will simply close her eyes a moment, which proves catastrophically optimistic. Frozen mid-thought as her breathing slows and deepens, Lars stares at the villainess who has fallen asleep entirely unguarded. Lars remarks to the sleeping woman that she is far too defenseless, receiving nothing but steady breathing in reply. Studying her slackened face with something close to reverence, Lars murmurs that she must have been truly exhausted. Admitting it quietly to no one at all, Lars confesses he knew exactly that and engineered this rest regardless. Smiling faintly as she sleeps on beside him, Lars concedes that she looks utterly comfortable, which was rather the entire point. Watching that sleeping face, Lars finds himself remembering without warning the day the two of them first met. Drifting into the past, the memory finds a boy controlling magic at 4 years early, prompting his mother to marvel delightedly. Calling out for his mother to look, the young Lars conjures brightly while she beams that he is truly her son. 7 attributes govern magic in this world: light, holy, fire, water, wind, earth, and last of all, dark. Straining eagerly to impress her further, the boy insists he can do more as something black begins turning between his palms. Cradling the dark bloom as it unfurls across his hands, the boy asks his mother whether it is not beautiful. Recoiling in open horror, the mother shrieks at him to stay away, leaving the child to ask, bewildered, what is wrong? Registering the noblewoman gasping that her child carries the dark attribute, the boy understands instantly that this power is unforgivable. His mother never faced him again after that day, and the memory records it without a shred of self-pity. Beaten by the friends who once adored him and told that dark magic is disgusting, the boy learns precisely where he stands. Looking up through the bruises, the beaten boy finds an angel crouched over him, demanding aghast to know who did this. Announcing she will fetch a wet handkerchief, the little noblewoman starts away, prompting him to cry out desperately for her to stay. Offering the only thing he has, the boy admits shyly that he can produce water, dark droplets trembling into the air. Delighted rather than disgusted, the girl exclaims that he can already use magic at his age and calls it absolutely amazing. That, the memory notes without embellishment, was the first time Lars ever fell in love. Asked for her name, the girl answers that she is Iris Ferrier, and the boy recognizes it instantly as Christopher Orion's betrothed. Before he understood what his own feet were doing, the boy had already fled the garden entirely. Returning to the present, Lars lifts his long bangs and observes wryly that Iris never once recognized him afterward. Bolting upright in horror, Iris registers that she fell asleep on duty and condemns herself flatly as a failure. Checking frantically for drool and finding none, Iris is greeted by a calm voice wishing her good morning. Freezing solid at the sound, Iris hums a strangled tune while Lars watches from the sofa with infinite patience. Whipping around, Iris shrieks his name, and Lars waves back at her with luminous, entirely unbothered cheer. Mortified beyond speech, Iris decides that being caught dozing by her own junior is far too humiliating for a senior. Smiling with lethal calm, Lars informs her that her sleeping face was cute, detonating whatever composure she had left. Flailing that he should say no such thing, Iris scolds him for slacking, prompting Lars to agree pleasantly and head back first. Waving him off with a bright, brittle smile, Iris holds her expression exactly until the door closes. Collapsing against the wall as her heart skips at the word cute, Iris reminds herself violently that Lars is 3 years younger. Sighing at the clock as the room settles, Iris finally registers what the hands are actually telling her. Staring at the frilled mask in dawning horror, Iris realizes an entire hour has vanished and pronounces the thing a devilish item. A short-haired colleague pauses in the corridor with an armful of books and turns, blinking, towards something she was not meant to see. Caught returning far too casually, Iris deflects the colleague's question about where she vanished to with a serenely evasive nothing at all. Handing over a thick stack fresh from the survey team, the colleague delivers the report, prompting Iris to thank her absently. Scanning the day's assignments aloud, Iris reads that the strongest miasma now gathers in the northern forest and freezes utterly. The Northern Forest Uprising is the game's final chapter, where a monster horde storms the castle and the heroine's party triumphs. Weighing the scenario against the castle walls, Iris concedes her own safety is absolutely secured inside them and then falters. Realizing that orders may soon drive Lewis and the others into open battle, Iris murmurs that the time has already come. Hoping to trace the miasma to its source before the ending lands, Iris admits flatly that such a hunt seems impossible. Shoving her chair back with sudden resolve, Iris decides she had better go and check on Lewis and the others herself. Ducking through the stable arch, Iris calls brightly for Louis, Nene, and Arthur, asking how the three of them are faring. Greeted by a delighted chorus of neighs and meows, Iris finds Louis alone shaping her name in human words. Reporting that monsters have been appearing far more often lately, Louis confirms precisely the fear that drove her worried visit. Seizing on the admission, Iris asks urgently whether he knows the reason, and Louis answers plainly that he does not. Absorbing that with visible unease, Iris warns him quietly that talk of a subjugation expedition involving him may soon arise. Bearing an enormous grin at the news, Louis scoffs that such a trifle is easy and vows fiercely to protect her. Iris flushes scarlet at the promise and thanks the arrogant wolf with something perilously close to tears. Burying herself in warm fur, Iris thanks Nene and Arthur as well, prompting a contented meow and a soft snort. Lifting her gaze with sudden steel, Iris resolves that the story has finally reached the point where things get serious. Elsewhere over drinks, the short-haired colleague protests that the foreshadowing payoff was unfair, prompting Iris to declare alcohol banned from all future discussions. Marveling that Lars turns out to be a Professor Reuben devotee too, the colleague earns his mild admission that he has always loved reading. Leaning in with dangerous brightness, the colleague asks whether anyone read the authors afterward, and Iris chokes on her drink. Recognizing the tale at once, Iris identifies the sacred beast legend, in which a golden-eyed royal commands a holy beast and saves the world. Recalling it aloud, the colleague reports that Christopher Orion once claimed his eyes were the legendary gold, prompting a scandalized shriek of disbelief. Iris demolishes the fantasy calmly, explaining that his eyes merely catch the light and are unmistakably blue, to everyone's visible relief. Turning wistful over her drink, the short-haired colleague muses that if a golden-eyed prince truly existed, he might come to save Iris. Iris deflects the sentiment with practiced grace, warning that such talk goes far too far and would cause trouble if overheard. Leaning in with catastrophic timing, the drunken colleague announces there is one more thing she absolutely must ask her senior. Cupping a hand to Iris's ear, the colleague demands to know exactly what is going on between her and Lars. Iris's expression flattens into total blankness as she asks, entirely sincerely, what on earth the woman could possibly mean. Insisting he never makes coffee for anyone else and calling it obvious love, the colleague earns a frantic reminder that Lars is sitting right there. Erupting that she refuses to see her senior married to a man who cannot treat his fiancée properly, Ricky howls until someone begs him to calm down. Under a night sky thick with stars, Iris and Lars walk home while she notes that Ricky has sobered without cooling off in the slightest. Slowing beside her, Lars asks quietly whether it hurts, leaving Iris to blink and ask what he means. Clarifying with unusual gravity, Lars names Prince Christopher Orion directly and admits that Ricky said the same thing tonight. Iris answers with a wry, exhausted honesty that claiming it never hurts would be a lie, but she has grown tired of feeling hurt. Drifting into memory, the narration recalls that Iris was engaged to Christopher Orion at birth and met him only at 6. Watching the bright boy across the study table, the young Iris allowed herself to hope that he might change something for her. That hope collapsed within days, leaving 2 children seated in silence at a table built for a marriage neither chose. Assessing the girl before them, the adults remark that Duke Ferrier has educated Iris well and that, being unfriendly, she should at least prove useful to the prince. Watching her own father bow respectfully to that verdict, the child Iris learned precisely how little adults are worth expecting anything from. Returning to the present beneath the roses, Iris concludes quietly that perhaps a villainess truly cannot change anything at all. Hardened by years of quiet disappointment, Iris tells herself that expecting nothing spares the wound, and admits she now feels absolutely nothing at all. Walking beside her junior with practiced composure, Iris insists that she is fine, offering Lars the answer she has rehearsed for years. Smiling brightly, she explains that noble marriages are simply built this way, and that her work, at present, is genuinely enjoyable. Bathed in moonlight, Iris adds that the director values her honestly, that Ricky looks up to her, that her coworkers are reliable. Lars smiles and tells her that being someone she can rely on is an honor he treasures utterly. Laughing off the compliment, Iris declares he is exaggerating wildly, then announces cheerfully that she will take this road home. Left alone beneath the stars, Lars presses a hand to his mouth and murmurs goodnight to absolutely no one. Days later, the mustache director calls for attention, announcing that this year's Magical Beast Ecology Survey has arrived and will proceed in pairs. Recalling the season, Iris explains that the Institute charts beast species and miasma frequency annually to prevent damage before it ever happens. Iris scans the roster and observes, with careful neutrality, that her assigned partner this year will be none other than Lars. Cutting through the corridor, an eager voice calls out for their senior, bright and utterly unbothered by the hour. Cornered among the roses by a nervous junior and an eager Lars, Iris agrees to teach, then notes pointedly that Lars should be teaching. Shrinking into a sulking little figure, Lars protests that this is only his second survey and plenty of things still escape him. Beaming agreement while privately confessing that he loves Iris, Lars leaves her muttering that her juniors trust her far too much. Lars produces a new magic tool built for the survey, one that records whatever enters its lens and transfers it onto paper. Recognizing it instantly, Iris goes wide-eyed and blurts that the thing in his hands is unmistakably a camera. Squinting at the little device, the junior asks what it is, while Iris notes, aghast, that it is somehow mirrorless. Deciding that demonstration beats explanation, Lars asks the two of them to stand side by side, leaving Iris startled to be included. Feeding a fresh sheet through his lightweight mobile printer, Lars announces that he will transfer the captured image onto paper at once. Studying the finished print, the junior wails that she is barely visible, the composition having devoted itself, suspiciously, almost entirely to Iris. Peering over his mustache, the director asks whether Lars is planning to deploy his new invention during the ecology survey. Lars confirms it smoothly, leaving Iris privately impressed that her junior has thought the entire thing through better than she expected. Boots gather across the tiled floor as the director instructs them all, firmly, to arrive fully prepared for the survey. A day's carriage ride south of the royal capital, the survey delivers them to a forest outside the small town of Labila. Riding beside her, the junior remarks that the weather is lovely enough for trekking, with no dangerous magical beasts anywhere nearby. Iris warns pointedly against lowering their guard, then proposes finishing quickly and sightseeing in town, prompting the junior to agree delightedly. Crouching over the undergrowth, Iris frowns at tracks this forest should never carry and wonders whether the northern miasma is spreading. Lars calls her over, pointing out footprints unmistakably belonging to a wolf-type magical beast pressed deep into the soil. Measuring the enormous prints, Iris notes grimly that townspeople wander here often, so the creature must be dealt with quickly. Lars reports that no damage has been recorded as of this morning and suggests returning to town to close the forest off. Turning to hurry them back, Iris fails utterly to notice the shape unfolding itself in the darkness directly behind her. Lars screams her name, his composure shattering completely as Iris turns a fraction too slowly toward the thing above her. Lunging between them, Lars vows fiercely that he will not allow it and erupts with dark magic as the junior shrieks. Lars asks urgently whether she is all right, while Iris, breathless, recognizes the snarling creature as a blood wolf. Iris confirms she is unhurt, then asks quietly what on earth the two of them are supposed to do now. Facing the beast, Lars tells her calmly that it is all right, privately vowing it will not lay a single finger on Iris. Iris's eyes widen enormously as something flashes past the edge of her vision, far too fast for her to follow. Vaulting skyward with a blade drawn, Lars drops onto the blood wolf and fells it in one devastating strike. Aghast and utterly delighted, Iris wonders aloud whether she inhabits an otome game world or a shonen manga instead. Iris admits the display surprised her enormously and calls Lars incredibly strong, prompting him to answer that it was merely enough to get by. Iris adds that his leaping ability was equally astonishing, drawing a small, faintly sheepish sound out of Lars in reply. Crediting Boots he modified into a magic tool, Lars brushes off her thanks and insists he is simply glad Iris is safe. Producing recovery medicine at once, Lars urges immediate treatment of her scratched finger, prompting Iris to protest that he need not go so far. Iris laughs that a wound this trivial will heal perfectly well if she simply licks it herself. Lars answers with absolutely lethal composure that in that case he will gladly lick it for her instead. Flushing violently as he takes her hand, Iris yelps and demands frantically to know what on earth Lars thinks he is doing. Surrendering instantly and utterly, Iris shouts that fine, she will use the recovery medicine after all. Lars beams that the wound has vanished, thoroughly pleased with himself while Iris regards him with flat, weary suspicion. Rounding on him scarlet-faced, Iris declares he went too far by licking her finger, prompting Lars to laugh that he counts himself lucky. Still muttering her exasperation, Iris notes that a fast horse messenger has ridden for the royal capital to report the blood wolf. No additional individuals are confirmed, though it is reported that ordinarily docile magical beasts have grown distinctly restless throughout the forest. Holding up her paperwork with open admiration, Lars remarks that Iris's report is incredibly easy to read. Thanking him, Iris privately notes she merely replicated the paperwork of her previous life, its tables and graphs now well regarded among researchers. Stretching with enormous relief, Iris observes that only the return journey remains and proposes departing for the capital tomorrow morning. Lars suggests sightseeing around town immediately, reasoning that non-stop work has thoroughly earned the two of them some rest. Iris declares the motion approved with unseemly enthusiasm, prompting Lars to announce brightly that they should set off at once. Walking the streets together, Iris decides souvenirs must be bought for everyone and wonders whether food is always the safest choice. Something in a shop window snags her attention completely, and Iris stops short, luminous eyes fixed on it. Iris asks whether the flower-shaped confections would be perfect as souvenirs, prompting Lars to agree that they are undeniably cute. Crouching before the glass case, Iris notes the shop sells cakes as well, while Lars, entirely unbothered, agrees that it smells wonderful. Iris proposes that since they are already here they may as well eat some too, and the junior agrees delightedly. Devouring her slice at speed, Iris declares it delicious while Lars decides the souvenirs will absolutely be this shop's baked sweets. Caught out by their stares, Iris insists defensively that finishing hers quickly could not be helped because the cake was simply that good. Lars asks smoothly why she does not try this one as well, sliding his own plate into view. Holding out a forkful across the table, Lars tells her calmly to say ah, and Iris freezes utterly. Iris swallows before she can think, and the two of them sit there while she notes flatly that it was delicious. Lars offers another bite, prompting Iris to collapse onto the table, insisting she will be too full for dinner, while he laments the shame of it. Rounding on him scarlet and furious, Iris declares that she has a fiancé and he absolutely cannot do things like that anymore. Lars replies with a lazy affirmative, privately observing that the fiancé in question is openly cheating, leaving Iris aghast at such an insincere answer. Out in the street, a townsman teases them about another date, prompting Iris to protest that it is nothing of the kind while he points out she is blushing. Iris explains that days of interviewing townspeople have made them familiar faces, and insists she is only flushed because she has never been on a date. She reasons frantically that Christopher never once invited her anywhere, that she has no resistance to romance, and that it is definitely not because Lars is handsome or considerate or pleasantly scented. Iris settles on the conclusion that she is simply unaccustomed to all this, while Lars watches her mutter with silent, unreadable patience. Lars says her name quietly, and Iris startles upright, demanding to know what he wants now. Grinning faintly, Lars mentions that this town happens to be famous for its jingisuken. Iris crumples at the mere word, staring into the middle distance as a mountain of sizzling grilled mutton rises behind her. Already opening the restaurant door, Lars asks what she thinks and whether they should go and eat some. The staff greet them warmly as Lord Lars and Lady Iris, leaving Iris to wonder aghast when exactly he made a reservation. Wine fills the glass as the junior insists they should not worry about her and simply enjoy themselves, while Iris refuses flatly to drink alone. Lars leans in with a lazy smile and reminds her that the work is finally finished and the jingisuken is delicious, you know. Confronted with sizzling meat and defeat, Iris demands to know whether anyone alive could resist drinking alongside something like this. Lars beams as she slumps against him, and Iris relents at last with a wobbling agreement. Glasses meet with a bright, decisive clink as the three of them toast the end of the survey. Face down at the table within the hour, Iris wails to no one in particular that she wants to be happy too. Lars concedes that finding someone she loves is fine, then admits privately that he has let Iris drink far too much. Watching her flush scarlet in seconds, Lars observes to himself that she is so utterly adorable he could stare forever. Iris rails that neglecting a fiancé is unfaithful, insisting Christopher should secure his father's permission and end the engagement properly before marrying Suzette. Lars steers her away gently, suggesting she forget that man entirely and focus on the meat for now. Iris obeys instantly, chewing away in small contented bites like a creature that has forgotten its own grievance. Iris declares it delicious with her whole face, leaving Lars quietly undone by how simple and adorable she is. Lars remarks that he is glad to have drawn the same survey site, privately delighted to have witnessed drunk Iris, then notes sauce on her cheek. Iris asks vaguely whether that is so, then instructs him, without a trace of shame, to get it for her. Lars stops entirely, expression emptying out as the request registers somewhere deep beneath his composure. Waving both hands frantically, Lars protests that no, absolutely not, that is far too much even for him. Sweating and scarlet, Lars wonders whether any of this is really okay, because Lars is a beginner at romance as well. He reminds himself that only hours ago she invoked her fiancé and refused the offered bite outright. Iris leans in with a lazy hey, admitting she played it off smoothly at the time while her heart hammered wildly enough to escape her chest. Face to face and utterly shameless, Iris asks again whether he will not get it for her, and Lars's composure disintegrates. Iris licks the sauce from her own finger instead, leaving Lars to scream internally that she is a drunkard. Studying her fingertip with dreamy interest, Iris marvels that it is so soft, while Lars concludes, helplessly, that she is simply too cute. Blushing violently behind his hand, Lars confesses that he wants to touch far more, that a single finger could never be enough for him. Sweating and utterly undone, Lars admits inwardly that he has become like a dog too impatient to wait, while soft snores drift past his shoulder. Startled fully upright, Lars realizes with alarm that Iris has slumped fast asleep against him, her hands still clasped warmly in his. Wincing with guilty resignation, Lars reminds himself that he is, after all, the very one who got her this thoroughly drunk. Hiding his flaming face behind luminous fingers, Lars protests weakly to no one that he is a man too, whatever she may assume. Returning to the palace, the small junior beams with delight and thanks Iris fervently for the souvenirs, prompting Iris to answer that she is very welcome. Bouncing over eagerly, Ricky asks whether the three truly went to Labila and demands to know if they ate Jingisukan, prompting Iris to confirm it proudly. Adjusting his glasses coolly, Lars observes that Iris must have been more exhausted than she realized, prompting her to admit her memory after eating turns rather hazy. Appearing suddenly in the doorway, the mustache director asks whether he might borrow a moment from both Iris and Lars alike. Stiffening with dawning unease, Iris notes that Lars is summoned as well and begins to wonder aloud whether this means what she fears, prompting the director to confirm it concerns the Labila report. Folding his hands gravely, the director explains that magical beasts have begun going berserk in recent years and warns that such outbreaks could surface far beyond Labila, prompting Lars to agree precisely. Frowning with sharpening focus, Iris relays that they also received reports of usually docile beasts turning restless, prompting the director to conclude that some genuine abnormality is indeed unfolding. Lowering his voice with quiet resolve, Lars proposes that they circulate this troubling report straight to the front lines. Turning back at the threshold, an armored knight declares that there is, in fact, one more matter to address. Rounding on her with formal severity, the knight barks her full name, Iris Ferrier, freezing the researchers where they stand. Erupting with an order that shatters her composure, the knight decrees that Iris is hereby commanded to bring a magical beast and join the monster subjugation frontline unit.